All right, today we have a 25-inch Sanyo commercial television. Yet another one, and we're going to do a swap to see if it is a good candidate for a K7000 or really any other standard res arcade monitor. I need to flip this around to show you the model number because I cannot easily set it on my turntable because it's too tall. I got the rag here to kind of reduce glare from the overhead light. So I can't turn it around on the rotisserie turntable, so we'll just do a jump cut, I should say, easy for me to say. We'll do a jump cut to flip this around, show you the model number, then we'll get the back off. I have a K7000 25-inch here that we're going to connect and see what it looks like, how it operates. And then if it's good, we will decase the tube and put it in a spare frame that I have. I actually have a couple of spare frames from tubes over the years that have gone bad and went off to the recycler. So we're going to put this on here. If it works, we'll take the tube out, put it on a spare frame that I have. I don't think that it has the right mounting plate for a 7000, but I actually have some of those too. We'll see if we can swap them out and how it goes. And so first, let's get this around. I'll show you the model number. Then we'll try and get this apart and see how this works with the 7000. Okay, so this is model number Delta Sierra 25390. And if you're ever wondering, if you see these for sale in, Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or wherever, and it says, if it's a DS27 or DS32, then that's the size of the tube. So in this case, it's DS25, so that's a 25-inch tube. So I actually got this for the grand total of free. So every week or so, I go on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace and just look for televisions. And I came across this one in a place a couple hours north here, Wichita. And it was advertised for free. So I said, well, I'll gladly take it from you, but I didn't really want to drive 2 hours up there and 2 hours back just for the TV. So, it's not too bad. I didn't want to do that. So they said, oh, well, as luck would have it, I've got family members who live in Wichita and they come up here every so often. Next time they come up, I'll have them grab it and bring it down to you. I said, absolutely, I'll take that deal. So that's what happened. And when they called me and said, hey, I've got the tube here for you, or this old TV, want us to drop it by your house? I said, absolutely. So they brought it by, and I gave them a $50 for their effort. So because they were so kind and generous in bringing it to me, they didn't have to do that. And the people went out of their way to come by the house and drop it off. I handed them a $50. I said, thank you very much. They were happy to take that, and I felt good about it. So I got the TV for free, but I spent $50 to get it to me. So anyway, all right, with that all being said, I'll get the camera on the tripod, we'll get the back case off, then we'll have to inspect things and flip it back around and see what it looks like. Now, I will say that it's almost guaranteed to not have the correct Wells Gardner yoke connector. So for testing, we're probably going to have to just use some jumpers or alligator jumpers I got over there. So it's almost guaranteed to not have the right yoke connector. So let's get the back off and see what we're dealing with. All right, so everything should be a quarter here. Okay, nothing in there. I thought something was falling off the overhead here. There we go. Okay. All right. I'm sure there's one in here somewhere. Yeah, there it is. And I forgot to mention this does operate and work and function, so it's operational. There's nothing wrong with it. So, I don't want to go through all this effort and have the tube be bad or something, but no, it turns on and operates. So, you get that one? Yeah, okay. All right, one left. Nope, hey, that's all of them, okay. And the big reveal here. Oh, I gotta get the power cable out of there. It slides right off, and there we have it. Let's see what we got here. We have A63A FW32X, and it's relatively clean. So does not appear to have come from a smoke home or a house with a lot of smoke. This is the same type of setup you'd have like on a K7400 or 7500, things like that, with this glued on yoke, convergence ring assembly. And I'm wondering if it's loose, because they all are, and yep, it's loose. So we'll have to see how the convergence is. If it's good, I'll slop some high temp RTV on here. Tiny little chassis. This is a RF TV model only, and as suspected, the yoke connector is not even close to the right kind, and does have some heavy use or high hour, it looks like, because of all the dirt and debris, but this is going to get taken away. We're not going to be using that. It's probably going to go right in the garbage with this case after we decase it all, but for the meat and potatoes of this, we can disconnect that, and yeah, CR23 tube, good to go. So let's flip this around, and I'm gonna get the 7000 here all hooked up, and then I'll just show it all hooked up before we test it. So let's do that, get this around, get that hooked up, and see how it looks hooked up here. All right, so here we are with our rather precarious setup. The wires are long enough to reach. This does sit up much higher because of the case here. So the wires are long enough to reach without this being under tension too much. It is off the back here is off the mat by about that much, so it's not sitting completely flat, but it's not a big deal. Everything is hooked up. We got our anode, neck, yokes hooked up, which I'll talk about that connection here in a minute. Ground wire is right here. It's just kind of shoved into the tube ground, which will work. Video connection, we have MK1 for testing hooked up. Power, remote, all this is ready to go. And I was setting all the color pots to dead center for a good solid baseline. You should have good colors. If the tube is good and strong, everything should be dead center on the cutoffs and the drives and have a good picture. So we got all that set to 0. Well, it's not 0. 0 will be all the way down. Or all the way up, actually, I think. I forget. But I have all of them set to a median nominal position, dead center. So that'll give us a good baseline for our colors. And then I did have to replace this pot off camera because I tried to adjust it, and the cap was missing off the pot, and I wasn't able to actually adjust the metal part. It had been corroded a bit because the cap was gone, so I just replaced it off camera. So that's done. Haven't turned it on yet, so just trust me. But the yoke connection, as you know, I did have a connector that matches Wells Gardner, but this is not a direct connection. So I thought for testing here, let's just use these alligator clips, and they clip onto the yoke pins and run directly to the yoke pins on the chassis itself. So you can see these two ones here with the black wires. That's for this goes directly to the green wire of the vertical, and that one goes to the yellow wire of the vertical. And then this one with the black plastic goes to the red wire of the horizontal, and the one over there with the red plastic goes to the blue wire of the horizontal, and they're hooked up right here on the yoke pins. So they're not touching, everything's fine. So that's about it. What we need to do now is get the camera. I wonder if we can move this slightly. Okay, that should work. And let's see if we can get this on the tripod. I got all my junk down there, forgive me. And let's see if this will stay. It will. And for dramatic effect, we're going to have to turn that overhead light off. That's better. Okay. Well, here we go. Let's turn it on. Nothing explodes, hopefully, and see what this looks like. 1, 2, 3. Comes on, and immediately this thing came to life and is nice and bright immediately. That is awesome. Oh, what the heck. Okay, well, we are upside down, so we're going to have to... Okay, I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to take the two connections on the yoke and just turn those wires, disconnect them, and put them on the other spots. And that will flip our horizontal, oh no, upside down. I'm sorry, vertical. Take those two black clips and turn them around for basically taking the yellow and the green and turning them the other way. Easy for me to say. So, okay. There we go. Try again. 1, 2, 3. Should be right side up this time. We are, but we're also backwards. I got them both backwards. Out of pure chance, they're both backwards. Or upside down and backwards. Okay, so same thing. We'll just switch these horizontal connections. If I could see. There we go. Here we go. Now, this should be good. Yes, okay. I'm not going to worry. This is a test board. This MK1 board has issues. See, now it's fine. So that's why I use it for testing, because it's got issues. All right, so now convergence looks pretty good. We are too bright with, let's adjust first. Brightness all the way down. Contrast all the way down. Screen pot up till we get our raster lines. There they are. Back down until they just go away. Right there. Brightness up until the background. Oh, we need a little bit more with the raster lines. Right there. Brightness up until the background is no longer black. Right there. Back down till it just goes black. Right there. Contrast up to a decent level. We'll say right there. Brightness back down slightly because the brightness goes up with the contrast somewhat. There we go. So that should be good for our brightness contrast. Let's acknowledge that, and let's see if we can get a little closer with air at extra dry here. All right, we need to make some more adjustments. Let's bring our width in. Actually, let's use my other tool. It's a bit shorter here. And it doesn't work, so taller one it is. Okay, width. Actually, we need to increase our width. Okay. I was going the wrong way. That's pretty good there. Let's move our H position, which is a scratchy pot there. Let's bring this back up. Okay, H position is roughly, yeah, that pot is a bit scratchy. That's good. Vertical position. We'll go right there. Vertical size. We got a bunch of scratchy pots on this remote board. Okay. Yeah, look at that. Colors are a bit off. We'll turn our black level up a bit. That's pretty good. But hey, full size, full image, good colors. We need to turn the blue up a bit. Slightly. Look at that. I turned up the drive pots about a quarter turn, all three of them, red, green, and blue, turned all the red, green, blue drive pots up about a quarter turn from center, and look at that. That is amazing. Fantastic. Well, I mean, not much else to say now. I need to get the frame, a couple extra frames that I have, and we'll see if we can decase this sucker, get it into a frame, and get the 7000 plate on the frame, and turn this into an actual complete arcade monitor. That is amazing. Black is background still black. Turning the color pots up a bit helped that. We got black background, beautiful colors, nice screen, full size I should say, full size screen. Not too wide, not too narrow, no linearity problems that I can see. This is phenomenal. So I guess the verdict on this is if you come across this particular tube or this particular television model, grab it because it's a fantastic drop-in replacement for these medium standard res arcade monitors. Look at this, amazing. We do have some scratchy pots on this remote board. Yeah, I'll shoot them with the contact cleaner here, clean them up. This stuff. I'll use this on the pots and clean all that stuff up. But, all right, so I'm gonna cut away, I'm gonna come back and I'll grab a case, not a case, we'll decase this and I will grab a frame and we'll see if we can get this swapped over to a frame and make it an actual arcade monitor. Okay, so it turns out that these 4 bolts, I should say I have the TV on my little stool with the towel under it so we don't scratch and damage the tube. But it turns out that these 4 bolts that mount this tube in this case are metric. It's a number 10, like you're working on a car. But so we can just remove all of the bolts that hold this into the plastic shell, and the shell will fall down around the stool. Then we can simply take our frame here that I have off camera and put that on the tube. It's a very quick and easy swap out here. You know, of course, you have to have a spare frame. Or come up with some way to mount it in your machine without a frame. It's kind of up to you, but it just so happens that I mentioned I had 2 extra frames. One of them just happened to be a complete K7000 frame off a 7000 tube that was nicked or damaged. I've acquired this stuff for all this type of stuff in who knows in what circumstance over the years. I can't recall. So I think at one point I had 5 extra frames from things over the years that someone's given to me or I found, or, you know, hey, I got this stuff, do you want it, kind of thing. And it just so happens that the one of the 2 I have left is a complete K7000 setup, so, or off a 7000 tube. So we can swap it very easily. But let's begin by getting these out. There's of course 4 anchor bolts on each corner. And what I plan on doing about the yoke is I have one of these all-in-one 100-degree tube yokes that really I'm never going to find a use for. This came off of a donor tube for that Paperboy monitor I did, where I had the Paperboy monitor tube swap. I'll link the video for that down below. This is the yoke that came off of that standard res tube, and it's a 100-degree yoke, and you'll understand what I mean by that in the video that I made. And it's got the yoke, the convergence assembly all together as one piece, one assembly. So unless you have a specific 100-degree tube, this is not going to be of any use to you. So what I'm going to do is, it looks like someone's already done some surgery on this. I'm going to steal this yoke connector and use it for this. So that's what we're going to do to solve that problem. And that's not going to be a major loss to the world if I do that. At least I'll still have the yoke, and I can always, if I need to use the yoke, I can always find another connector down the road and swap it over and whatever, what have you. So in an effort to get this done quickly, we're just going to steal those and splice them onto this yoke. Alright, one left here, and this should fall right down. There it goes. And I'm never going to find a use for these, but I'll hang on to them anyway. No reason to chuck them. Okay, and now I need to grab the frame here, which I stupidly put a leg of the tripod through. So we'll have to move that. There we go. And yeah, I mean, as luck would have it, it's a complete K7000 frame here. And if you look right here, not sure if you can see, but it says model 25K7193, which is a K7000. So got lucky on that. Flip this around the right way. And we're going to have to remove these. I saved the original bolts. So we're going to have to remove those. Not sure why I didn't do that first. That's why it's the amateur channel. Trying not to hit the tube because it's been known to happen. I won't cite specifics, but one left, sorry. Bear with me here while I flubber my way through this. Okay, so we'll start by just feeding it through the bottom tabs first, or getting the bottom one secure first. Because these arms act like a big spring. They're under tension, so they don't just line up immediately with the holes. You have to kind of put the bottom two in first, and then close the spring action. Then we can kind of push this, get this one in. And then lastly, this one. And there we have a successful swap over of the tube and frame here. Trying to get this to sit on here. There we go. There you have it. Pretty easy. And yeah, so now we need to get this onto the test bench. Get going on swapping that yoke over, or the connections I should say, and get this in here and see how it looks after that. Alright, so I'm in the middle of swapping all this stuff over, and it's important to use the right connectors. So none of the connectors on this tube were the right ones for the 7000, so it's a matter of trying to find the right connectors as well. And I have a giant little old CD thing full of connectors, and over the years I've used a lot of them. And I ran out of the proper style connector for the DGAUs, whatever you want to say, connector. So I had to use a different style and kind of break the connector apart to be able to hook it up directly. So that's what these are. And then I have the original DGAUs coil wires here. And you know, you see a lot of people using wire nuts and things. I mean, that'll work, but ideally you want to do it properly. So I got one of these cases of splices. They're actually referred to as solder zaps or solder splices, and you want to do this properly. So I see a lot of people using heat guns for this, but they're like not very warm, and you barely even see the solder flow, and as soon as they see the solder flow they stop. They don't get good coverage. So I have one of these Master Pro heats, easy for me to say, and I run it about 75% of the heat. And you have to have the right attachment. So what this attachment will do is this attachment will, instead of just blasting one side of the solder zap, it will actually blast in a complete, 360 around it. So you put this down in here, and it'll blast from both sides and, around the top. So that's what this little attachment's for. And this is what I highly recommend using whenever you run into this situation where you want to use these splices. Get yourself a better heat gun with variable temperature setting, and get the right attachments for it, and it'll work pretty well. So now what we're going to do here is we're going to try and attempt to do a couple of these on camera. I'm going to do the same thing for the yoke connectors, so I wanted to show this in action and not just show it afterwards. So you line up your two wires here, slide your shrink over to where the solder's covering both ends of the exposed wire, and then, let's see if I can zoom in here. You want to heat it up until the solder flows out both ends. And of course, that happens because of gravity. Screw you, Isaac Newton. It's your fault. We wouldn't have gravity if you hadn't opened your big mouth. Okay, now let's try this again here. There, nice. I don't know if you probably couldn't see that. This is the amateur channel, but give that a moment to cool. And this will burn your fingers rather badly, so you want to kind of use it at an angle. You don't want this hot air to blow straight across onto your fingers. You want to kind of do it at an angle. But I have been using this thing in the aircraft industry for years, and it works great. So I recommend doing that. But now that that's had time to kind of settle there, you can see that we have a nice flowed joint there, and the solder has flowed all the way to the other connector, the other wire I should say. So it's not ideal. I mean, it doesn't look that great. We'll try and make it look better on the other one, but that's the general idea. Now if we grab this other one here and try it, put this through there, line up the two wires, put our solder over that point, and kind of use this to keep it from moving, slipping out. Back and forth until you see that solder flow. There, oh, beautiful. Right there at the end, it just flowed right out. It's good. All right, give that a few seconds. And nice. Actually flowed out a bit too much, but that's what you want. When you see these guys on YouTube use these solder zaps here, they don't, I haven't seen a single guy yet. The car guys and things that use these in their repairs, I haven't seen a single one of those guys yet do it actually properly. They just blast it from one side and kind of go around, but it doesn't actually disperse the heat properly. And I don't think they run it hot enough to actually melt the solder, and it doesn't look like the solder has flowed. It doesn't stay focused, sorry. It doesn't look like the solder has flowed when they do their joints. So I recommend picking yourself up one of these Master Pro Heat. I'll put a link down below, and make sure you get these adapters as well, because that's really what makes the difference when you're trying to shrink these down. So I'm going to do the same process on the yoke connector, but I wanted to show that in action there. Not a very good example, but you should get the idea of how really kind of to do it properly. And now with this done, we can fish these through over here and hook them up. And we can't see, sorry. Hook them up where they have to go, right here. Just like so. And there you have it. All right, so next step is the yoke. We'll have to get that same thing done to this. When I come back, I'll have that done. We'll plug this in. Everything else is good to go. We are secure in the frame. Attachment points are in. I mentioned the ground. Let's see, the ground wire. I did mention the wire nuts, but I have no option with the wire nut on the ground because it's supposed to be a quick disconnect. If you want to take this neck board off, and I don't have any quick disconnect connectors, so we're just going to use the wire nut for the ground. You'll have to forgive me, but when it comes to these things that are supposed to have a disconnect, I like to do it the proper way. So anyway, all right, so I'll get this yoke done. We'll come back and then we'll see how it works. Well, I had planned to just have this done and hook it up and show it in action, and do a 1, 2, 3, make sure everything works after all this. But I wanted to showcase here again how you're really supposed to do this. Now, I cut this in half because I don't know, this connector isn't color coded with yellow or green. It's just two yellows, so I'm not sure which way it needed to be. So in case it's upside down, I just wanted to be able to take it off, turn it around, hook it up. So that's why I cut it in half. But this is what this is supposed to look like again. So you can see how the solder here has flowed completely through the connection joint here. Well, again, when you see these guys do this stuff on YouTube with working on their cars and stuff, they don't ever really get this proper. And then these two red points this is supposed to be an environmental splice. This is supposed to keep water and other contaminants out of the joint. And they don't really shrink down these either. You're supposed to go back and forth across the entire well, splice, to shrink down the 2 red points, to get the seal in there to keep contaminants out, and then also enough to make sure that this solder has flowed completely through this joint. That's how it should look. You never see that when anyone does this. So this is, I just wanted to make some time here and take an example and show you how this is supposed to look when you're done. If you don't see that solder flow completely around and out the ends of that band, then it's not done right. So that's how it should look. Anyway, all right, so enough getting on my high soapbox here about this. I'm gonna hook this up and then we'll spin it around, turn it on, and see what happens. All right, so everything's hooked up and ready to go. I got the yoke connector here all nice and secured and tied up. So the only thing really left is if we get this up and running and working and adjusted and calling it done, I'm gonna have to put a little, clean this up on the glass and put a little high temp RTV to keep this from moving around. I mean, it's secure the way that it is, but with these arcade machines, if it ever goes in a machine when they get banged around and moved, I worry about this getting loose. I'll throw some high temp RTV on here and that should solve that from ever getting loose again. But like I say, I don't know if the yoke is hooked up properly because the color codes are different. So let's just turn this on and see if we're in any better or worse shape than we were and kind of go from there. Are we crooked? No, that's fine. Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3. Yes. And man, this comes to life so quickly. Oh, dang it. We're upside down and backwards again. How can I make the same mistake twice? What are the odds of that? I got the horizontal and vertical backwards twice in a row. So, I'm going to have to flip this around. So we want them facing away from each other. So I put them in facing together. We want them facing away from each other. And it's never easy to do this in here. Seriously, come on. Good God almighty. Hang on a second. I can't really see what I'm doing is the problem. I got my overhead light off here, so let's try it with a little bit of light here. There, see, that was easy. Away from each other, so this one needs to go this way. Alright, now that should solve our problem. And make sure we turn the flashlight back off. Alright, now how are we sitting here for visual? Okay. Alright, take 2. I did spray that contact cleaner on the pots on the remote board and wiped them back and forth. So yeah, we're not in the same position. We're a little bit too bright. We'll go right there. So we're going to have to skip past this, make sure we can set everything back to the way that it was. And nice. Okay, H position. Actually, we'll go into the match here. Make sure we're good. Okay, so vertical position actually roughly there. Okay, H position over to roughly there. Actually, I think I need to adjust H hold because that's maxed out on the position. Well, that was H hold. I was adjusting the wrong thing. There we go, H position. That's why it's the amateur channel. And there you go. I would say that looks pretty good. Actually, need a bit more green. And not really, go right about there. In person, it doesn't really... In person, this is nice and gray. But through the viewfinder here, it looks kind of green. I'm not sure how it'll turn out and look in the actual... Yeah, see, it doesn't look... Let me get closer here. The reds are nice and red in person. This is super red, but through the viewfinder, it's not. See, now it's more, okay, so there we go. This camera is just not very good. So get closer, give it some time. That's how it looks in person now. So if I back up, look at that. That is good. And now it's fading a bit on the color. So I don't know if it's through the viewfinder it may look fine in the camera. I'm sorry, in the video that you're watching right now it may look okay, but in person through the viewfinder it looks pretty dull. But trust me, this looks fantastic. Absolutely perfect. No linearity problems, no size problems, no fold over, no convergence issues. Direct smack dab drop in for a 7000 and pretty much any probably medium, I'm sorry, I did it again, that's twice now. Standard res, pretty much any standard res arcade monitor, this going to be a fantastic drop in. So that's about it. Went pretty well. Showed how to get this swapped over, and I have to say, now it's back to looking too green in the viewfinder. I have to say it went pretty well. Can I do any good here with only 3 buttons? Let's go with a character I can use. Let's go with Raiden. Fight. Fight. Come on. Which one's I kick? There it is. Oh, I wanted to do a combo there. If you do a deep jump kick into the corner and do an uppercut into a... There's all kinds of combos you can do actually, but this is Rev 3.0, so there's not much you can do when it comes... Oh, hit the block again. I only have high punch block and high kick because I don't have a connector hooked up for the low attacks, so... And... Look at oh! All right, so there you go. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more. I think the next video we're going to go through all of the stash I got from my buddy up in Wisconsin that brought all that stuff down. We'll show everything that came in that box or those containers, plural. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, this turned out successful. Glad about that. We basically have a brand new K7000. I'm happy about that. I appreciate you watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you next time.